clearly small but mighty group this morning is a true indicator that it's vacation mode July. We're right in the center of it. I've kind of been watching that the last couple of weeks. We'll take a couple minutes and do introductions, and then we'll continue on. John Belines will not be joining us initially. He's going to try and join us later. He had some sort of a small family emergency popped up this morning that he didn't explain. He just said he couldn't make it. So just keeping good thoughts for him at the moment. I'm going to go to my friend Lisa first because she was first, and I know she would love to do that.
Trish, you're funny. I was telling Trish, for those of you that signed on after I did, I am not always an early bird because I usually get in right when the door opens wherever I'm at. And I have mentally told myself this meeting's at noon on Fridays because it's so many years, and I have to retrain myself. And so today I was sitting here at my computer, not going to get distracted, so I could log on before it started so that I would not look like a big flake that I'm logging in at 11:58 going, where is everybody? So that's my little moment of why I got to be early today. I'm Lisa Mantero Moore on behalf of Assemblymember Adam Gray. Glad to see you all today.
Thank you. And Angela?
Hi everyone, this is Angela Freitas. I'm the Director for Stanislaus County Planning Community Development.
Thank you. Nice to see you. And Jennings.
Hello, Jennings Zimmel with the U.S. Chamber out of our Western Regional Office. Good to see you all.
You as well, Brianna.
Good morning, everyone. Brianna Gonzalez, District Representative with Congressman Josh Harder.
And Amy.
Hey guys, Amy Collier-Carroll. I am the Director of Legislative Affairs and Communications for Stanislaus County, working in the Chief Executive Office.
Thank you. And Supervisor Graywall.
Manny Graywall, Modesto resident, really excited about the speaker today, trying to see what the Board of Supervisors is up to.
Thank you, sir. And Councilmember Madrigal. If you're able, we're just doing simple introductions at this time, Tony.
Tony Madrigal, City Council Member Modesto. I'm going to go on mute because I'm kind of on a work break here.
Okay, thank you. And Vito, I'm going to hold on you for a moment. I'm going to put the minutes up. We typically do introductions and then ask if anyone has had a moment to go through the minutes. If you'd like to make a motion to approve them, I will note that. Anyone that attended the last meeting would like to make a motion, you're welcome to do so.
I'll go ahead and make a motion, Trish.
Thank you, Amy. In a second. Lisa, or actually Manny, you could, either of you would like to make a second.
I'll make the second. I don't want the second time this week where I've seen a motion go without a second.
Thank you. And if no one's opposed, we'll make these approved. All right. So we will take a couple of minutes and do reports. And so Brianna, I will start with you.
Perfect. I'm kind of sad that we have a small group today. I kind of have a lot to share. Congressman Harder was in the district last week, and we had a fully packed district trip. A couple of things I wanted to highlight. We had a water policy summit at the Stanislaus Farm Bureau. Supervisor Chiesa was there. We had Karen Ross, the California Secretary of Ag, speak, as well as both of the chair people for the California Water Resource Board. So I hope it was a helpful summit. We also had a fire chief roundtable where we invited all of the chiefs from our district to come and chat with Congressman Harder in regards to some of the difficulties their department or districts are facing. Some of the conversation included retention, firefighter retention, and then fire prevention, also reimbursement processes with the Forest Service. There's lots of things that need to be focused there. I also wanted to mention that we were able to get increase the federal firefighter pay. Before they were making less than minimum wage, which is really, really crazy. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. So we were able to increase their wage, which is very exciting. Also this week, in the past couple of weeks, the SBA has started releasing the businesses who received the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, as well as the Shuttered Venue Operators Grants. I'm really happy to let you all know that the State Theater received almost $400,000 in that grant, as well as the Gallo Center for the Arts received a little over $3 million, which is very, very exciting. Also, Congressman Harder is currently voting on a few appropriation bills, including the Invest in America Act, which passed the House. And once that passes the Senate, let me pull up the numbers really quick. I'm sorry. Once that passes the Senate, we will be getting $6.5 million for the 7th Street Bridge construction, and then $12 million for the SR 132 West project. So that's very exciting. Also, I have a little teaser. We haven't put out a press release on this yet, especially since it hasn't we haven't voted on it on the House yet, but we will begin voting on the community project funding. We are very hopeful that almost all of the projects that we put up will hopefully get passed, but I will wait to let you all know the numbers and the projects hopefully next month. I just wanted to give you a little teaser with that. All right, well, that's my update.
Thank you. And small or not, that's why we're recording this. We are putting these to YouTube, and as we're getting caught up, they're going to be on our website, so people can refer to them long term. So thank you for reporting. Lisa, do you have a report?
Oh, Trish, can I get a quick question for Brianna, please?
Of course, go right ahead.
Brianna, I just wanted to make sure that I heard correctly. So $3 million for the Gallo Arts Center?
Yes.
And
Let me
what?
Yes.
Wow, is there any restrictions, limitations, or can be used for loss of revenue over the previous year? Or, is it attached with something that they have to do this to get it?
Sure, I can send you, let me go ahead and look. I believe it's mostly like up to their discretion on how they spend it. I don't believe there's many strings attached as per usual, since it was a new program created to mitigate the damages that COVID did. But I can always make sure that is the case and send you some more information if you'd like.
No, that'd be great. That's a big investment into one of our entertainment hubs here in downtown Modesto. So that's
we got a few too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 performing arts. I don't know, businesses, nonprofits received the grant in our district. So the Central West Ballet in Modesto received $178,000. Opera Modesto received $35,000. The Fruit Yards events received $170,000, and then Turlock Community Theater received $97,000. So a good chunk of change came to our district.
Oh no, that's great. Thank the congressman for that.
Will do.
And you said State Theater 400,000?
Yeah, just about 386,991.
Got it. That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, Lisa, back to you.
Hi, good morning. Actually, we're afternoon now almost. That's pretty impressive from the federal government. Our budget highlights this week include Assemblymember Gray is hosting, along with Congressman Costa, Senator Padilla in the south part of our district today. It's happening as we speak right now. Separately, and mostly that topic is water related. Separately, one of the bills the Assembly member carried regarding continuous glucose monitors was signed into the budget so that the cost will not be passed on to those in need. And then for those of you familiar with those, it's a very expensive device and it's kind of left off the insurance and programming over the years. We have a number of other local programs that have received some funding that we were supportive of. I'm going to provide a more detailed report to you, Trish, for the chamber on all the stuff, because my staff is still highlighting some of the stuff that's important to our district here. So I will give you a more detailed report in writing after this meeting.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Thank you. Supervisor Graywell, are you wanting to add something of your own before our speaker presents today?
No, Trish, just listening in. Thank you.
Mhm. So Amy, we will go to you if you have a report you'd like to give.
Yeah, actually, a couple of things I wanted to share with this group, and I'll try to keep it brief. But we had a couple of really good meetings last week, and I was wondering if maybe Supervisor Chiesa wanted to cover those two, but we
You
did
go for it.
Okay. So we had a great meeting with U.S. Senator Alex Padilla's Central Valley District Director, Margaret Archega. Supervisor Chiesa and Supervisor Graywall met with that group as well. And we talked about a lot of federal legislative priority issues. So that was a really good meeting. Nice to have that face-to-face contact. And then the following day, I believe it was Wednesday, maybe Thursday, we met with Governor Newsom's Central Valley Deputy Regional Director of External Affairs, and had another really great meeting, talked about a lot of our state issues, pressing policy things that are happening at the state level. And so it's really good to get some face time with our legislators and their representatives. And then I wanted to give a shout out to Congressman Harder as well on really pushing for us on our appropriations requests. We just heard early this week that 2 of the requests we put in over the spring looks like they've been approved. So we should be receiving $2 million for our multi-county mental health bed regional partnership that would create a regional facility to address the shortage of mental health treatment beds in Stanislaus, San Joaquin, and Merced counties. And then we'll also be getting $1.8 million for a Promotores community health outreach worker program that puts mental health clinicians in local schools. So thank you to Congressman Harder for that work as well and his team.
Thank you, ma'am. And Councilmember Madrigal wrote his in, so I will just read from the chat for you. At last Modesto City Council meeting, we approved the Modesto firefighter service contract with Series and an approval of 1.2 million funding for tree removal in Modesto, which I know has been, I know they're backlogged on that one. And so thank you for putting that in the chat, Councilman. I'm going to apologize for a moment and ask Sabrina to please introduce herself. I slid right over you and I did not mean to do that. So would you just take a moment and introduce yourself, please?
No worries. I'm Sabrina Field, the membership coordinator for the Modesto Chamber of Commerce, and will hopefully be a part of these meetings going forward. So,
thank you, ma'am. You have to rename yourself on here because it's confusing to hear you say that and read something different. Okay, with that, I will hand it off to Supervisor Chiesa, and floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Trish, and it's great to see everyone. I also want to start out with kudos to the congressman. I was at the water summit and I thought it was great because too often we catch ourselves talking around each other rather than talking to each other. And it was an opportunity really with the State Water Board. Joaquin was there and Dee Dee were there from the State Water Board, which are the most important people in this conversation at this point. We're talking about trying to protect water rights for Stanislaus County, both the Oakdale Irrigation District, Turlock, and Modesto Irrigation Districts, and their pre-1914 water rights, because we are still an ag-based economy. 8 of our 10 largest major manufacturing employers are still ag, and you've heard all their names before. So it was great that we convened the right people to have a conversation just about, what it means to our county and to the city of Modesto, to the water infrastructure that we have. And right now, laying lines, they just started putting line in the ground for the surface water treatment plant, SRWA, for both Turlock and Ceres. I know Modesto's been on surface water for quite some time, but again, it's progress at its best for sure. So I just want to give a quick overview of the county because everyone always needs to hear the basic county, what we're about on our budget. We have a $1.5 billion budget, but most of that money, the vast majority of it, is pass-through money for programs given to us by the state or the federal government. I think our discretionary spending this year on our adopted budget is about $241 million, if I remember right. And that is money that the 5 board members can actually put anywhere we want. We have a general fund budget because there's more money than that. Not general fund, the general fund budget. We have a lot of minimum mandated matches and that we have to put money into programs to draw down state and or federal dollars, and that's about another 100 million. But the true spending is $241 million that Manny and myself can actually make a decision to give it to anything we want. We have about $200 million in reserves in the county, a little over that. So financially, we are very, very stable at this point. If you look back and you compare us to cities back when the the Great Recession hit, we were in much worse shape than the cities. We tend to, bad budgets get worse quicker for us and good budgets get better. And we've seen good times. Sales tax is very stable. Property tax is very stable. And I just pulled up today because I track the Measure L month by month. And we are tracking right now in sales tax. Last year we had $45.7 million. And remember, when we passed Measure L, to have some sales tax for transportation, our expectation was $38 million. So we had $45.7 million last year, and we are, with 1 month remaining, we're at $50.2 million. We're literally going to do $12 million better than last year. So sales tax is very high. And what we've seen here in Stanislaus County, there's something called Prop 172, and I won't try and explain all the intricacies of it, but it's sales tax that comes to the county. The cities do get a little portion of it, the larger cities, but it's a pooled sales tax across the state, and then we get a percentage of it, whatever our percentage of the pool was for the year. And because we're not a tourist area like Orange County or San Francisco, our percentage of the pool is growing. And so we're going to get a disproportionate share, probably only for 1 year, but we'll see another increase in sales tax. Stanislaus County will. So sales tax is doing really well. People are still spending money on large ticket items, cars, motor homes, and other things. And so we've benefited from everyone to just think about that. The state budget, they've finished the state budget. And again, they're going to come back into session in a couple of weeks and they're going to come out with another state budget. But 2 things of significance, there are actually 3 things of significance, 2 good, and one of them probably not so good for the county. There's $6 billion of broadband money. And we think, all right, here in Modesto, everyone has broadband, everyone has access to broadband. But as you talk about schools and distance learning, and the things we've learned is that there's dead spots within cities, there's dead spots as soon as you leave a city. And then we also have the last mile that we have to complete trying to get it out to Roberts Ferry, to Knights Ferry, LaGrange, the outposts, the furthest reaches of our county. There is no broadband. And the reason I'm in my office right now doing this rather than at home is because my internet access sucks. So that's a statement. So $6 billion, we're going to try and chase that money. Also, there was $12 billion in homelessness money. It's split up into 3 pots from what I've heard. Some of it, the money's going to go through the community systems of care, which is is typically where homeless money goes through. That we call them the COCs statewide, but ours is the community systems of care. 28% of the money is supposed to come directly to counties, and then the 13 largest cities are going to get money directly subvented to them. But it's $12 billion. Now, I love money coming from the state, and I applaud because homelessness is a problem. But we just did an emergency solutions grant, NOFA, where we chose some shelters. They could expand their shelters, they could do street outreach, and we had money available, and not all of it was captured by the folks. So there's money going unused, and now there's another $12 billion. And if 28% comes to the counties and we're 1.4% of the population, if we got a proportional share, I don't even know how we're going to spend the money. Manny and I and the rest of the board are going to have to put our heads together to figure out, because we believe we're doing some good, but I don't know how much good we're doing. We have to track. We need to do better in tracking. I also want to talk about the CARES Act funding, which was the Corona Relief Funds. You might remember the county was the only one in Stanislaus County. Only the county got money. It was $92 million. Of the $92 million, we had, and this was last year, we gave $15 million directly to the cities. $18.4 million went to business grants. I think everyone's pretty familiar with that. 5.3 we gave to nonprofit supports like the Gallo Center, pretty much the list that I just heard from Brianna, and it went pretty deep. We gave $2 million to the RAD card, and of that, about 650,000 of it was spent here in Modesto. Great program. We thought it was a great success, and we also gave $500,000 to fire districts for reimbursement for costs associated with COVID that they couldn't otherwise claim. And so about $45 million, we kept about half of it, and about half of it went for community support. We still have $9.2 million the last time I checked. It's probably a little less than that in reserves on the CARES Act, and they need to be spent before the end of the year. So we're going through that determination right now, what we're going to do with that money. The next thing I want to talk about really quickly is the American Rescue Plan, and that was the $1.9 trillion bill that went through. It was Biden's bill, and that's a lot of money, but there's a lot of money flowing to cities in the county. The share was $107 million. And so our board got together and had determined in buckets. We just decided money in grand buckets. We put $5 million into supporting families, and we've seen great success in our family resource centers being as a channel to put people in to find services. What we found is that there's so many opportunities for funding right now through the federal and state government. It's very difficult even for the county to remember, and myself especially, and not to put myself down, but when people call and ask where to be directed, other than telling them to call 211, I'm not specifically sure of all the programs that we have available. So the family resource centers have been a godsend, and we had given $1 million to each of them before, and now we're setting aside $5 million that will probably end up in the family resource centers. The second bucket of money is we're going to start a community development corporation. We're putting $5 million there to get it up and running, and some seed money. Joe Duran is leading that, if you're familiar, and I don't know if they've given a presentation, but it would be fantastic for them to give a presentation at the GRC. I think when we talk about non-traditional loans, we probably have an advantage to go into a commercial lending institution because we have credit and probably a good credit rating, but people who might not fit into that exactly that category have trouble getting a loan through a traditional institution. So this is, I would consider it more of a non-traditional. They're willing to take more risk, and so it is something that we feel pretty strongly about, and it will really help, especially a lot of the unincorporated disadvantaged areas of Stanislaus County. The third area, which is an area that Manny has been fighting for, we're putting $30 million into economic growth and job creation. And this is not, I don't believe we're going to end up with a direct subvention, but we're trying to create a blueprint, much like Fresno Drive, the Drive initiative down in Fresno, where we create a pathway for business. And it is yet to be developed. It's in its infancy stage, but it is something that Manny's been advocating for and feels very strongly about. And so we all have different ideas of how to spend money. And this is one, the long-term success of Stanislaus County is based on economic growth. So that money has been set aside. The last one is the one that's pretty easy for everyone to agree on. We're going to put $50 million into infrastructure. And infrastructure can be anything. It can be Crow's Landing Naval Air Force Base infrastructure. It could be bridges, or it could be what I think, the vast majority of this money is going to end up. It's trying to bring unincorporated areas that might not have sidewalks, might not have sewer, water lines, and try and bring those up to standard so we can get a county island or 2 or 3 annexed into the city. That would be like an ideal moment. The difficulty in that is that, it sounds good. We bring it up to a city standard. We have to have the people vote for it. And there are certain areas that don't want to be parts of cities. And if you're going to expend that money to bring something up to standard, you want to make sure the city's willing to annex it and that the people are willing to vote to be annexed. So, but it's something I think our board has coalesced around. It would be nice to show the people that we can take one of these. I think we've got 42 islands. There's probably more than that, but 42 big islands, you know, significance. I think there's parcels that are out. And I will tell you, you know, and one other thing, I had voted at LAFCO. If you're familiar with G3 on Whitmore, let's say Whitmore and Crow's Landing Road, there's a couple of parcels, about 80 or 90 acres left over there. It's close to the post plant. It's west of G3's building, and the city of Ceres is right across. And I had voted at LAFCO. Modesto wanted to annex a portion of it. And it was the easiest plot of land, in my opinion, to come up with a tax sharing agreement so that it didn't harm Modesto. We put some money in. It would be a real opportunity for us to show the public that we can do it, that we can work together. And I thought it was a rushed annexation. I still believe that, but you know, I'm not going to stop on that, because taking the greenfield, the 30 acres of greenfield, that's the easy part. And it's actually best for the county financially to do that. Not the best thing for the people. So I'm going to continue down that path. So those are a few things. I want to also talk about really quickly redistricting. I know that most jurisdictions are going through redistricting right now. If you go to stancounty.com, you go to the Board of Supervisors page down below, there's a link right to redistricting. I think it's stancounty.com /redistricting /, but it talks about the timeline. And everyone knows that we were very late in going through the component of, because of the pandemic, and just trying to get the census done, every 10-year census. So it looks like we're not going to have a draft out until October of this year. So it's going to be a tight timeline, not just for us, but for every single school district, every city, all the way through. But I wanted to tell you who the members were on the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors Advisory Committee from representing District 1, Angela Martin and Perfecto Munoz, who lives in Modesto. District 2, Anakim Varani and Cecilia Huddleston. District 3, Christine Schweninger and Carmen Morad. District 4, Mark Looker and Miguel Donoso. District 5, Kimberly Ochoa and John Mataka. And then the at-large person is April Henderson Potter. And I don't, again, they're meeting, they've already met, and the meeting schedule is on the website. Pre-draft committee workshops are going to be September 7th. So they're meeting in Oakdale, Empire, Patterson, Salida, Turlock, and the board chambers 3 different times when we have the public hearing. And then we're supposed to adopt by December 13th. If it is a extremely ambitious schedule, if we receive the information in October, not knowing which districts have to be enlarged and retracted, just, you know, offhand, I would think that District 5, much like the last 10 years, District 5 is Chance Condit's district. I think the most growth has occurred in his district, the Patterson Newman area. I also think District 1 in the Oakdale Riverbank area has seen pretty good growth, along with East Modesto. So yeah, I'm just guessing that those are the 2 that might have to lose some population. But I don't, District 1 is much easier to move lines. And then Manny's district, District 4 is probably will be the one that has to gain some. Again, this is just Vito's view of the world. And it's pretty easy for Manny with Buck's district, but not so easy for Chance's district, because last time the airport was kind of the middle of the pie, so to speak, of the whole county. And then that district went across the river for the first time, really, and to Ceres. So there's a real conundrum there of how to make that work. And so please stay engaged, again, through the public meeting process. It's important. The Board of Supervisors, although probably not as sexy to most people, as their city council, because they typically are, you know, they want to make sure their toilets work and that their lights work and their roads are paved. But if you look at all the programs that we run that I can't even name, the Board of Supervisors are very important, and they have a lot of say in a lot of areas. So please stay engaged with the board. Your representatives in Modesto are Buck Condit, Manny Graywall, and Terry Withrow. They all have a portion of Modesto. And with that, I think I'm going to stop and take any questions, if that's okay.
Please feel free to unmute yourself if you have something you'd like to add or ask.
Something's in the chat. Let's see.
Yes, from Councilmember Madrigal, maybe community education and outreach funding should be part of that County Islands effort.
So thank you for that, Tony, and it definitely will be a portion. Right now, the County Public Works is doing a study on cost. I will tell you that the total cost of county islands to bring them up to county standards, the early estimate was about $450 million. And that does not include the county areas of Empire and Keys, the unincorporated communities. That was about another 175 million last time I remember. So it's close to $700 million total. So $50 million, although it sounds like a once in a lifetime opportunity, it's not going to make a dent. So we have to look for leveraging money from the state and the federal government. That's why we're trying to prioritize and also have some regional proximity. So all the money is not spent in one district or one area. And so we're looking to see what rank is the highest priority, have the best chance of being incorporated into the city. So there will be an outreach component and an educational component.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Manny, did you have anything to add onto the things I said?
He fell off a little bit ago.
Okay. That's good.
That's good.
Oh, I think one thing you'd ask me really quickly about our new board. I think that was a component because for so long, and Trish, I know everyone pretty much on this call understands that we had a 16-year supervisor. At some point, there's 16, 12, 10, 4 and 4, and now we're at 13, 11, 1, 1 and 1. And it could have really changed the dynamics of our board. What I've seen so far is that there's been life re-injected in some ways, that you've got 3 new board members who are excited. Maybe they don't have as much knowledge of the workings of the county, but they're so energetic. They look at Manny and Chance and Buck and they want to go to everything. They want to be a part of everything, which has really re-energized myself. Because you tend to get in the malaise where you understand or you've seen a problem occur over and over and over again, and you get a little complacent, quite frankly. And so exciting times around here. I don't see the direction of the county and their fiscal conservative nature. I haven't seen it change one iota, although we've determined that we're going to cap out our reserves. We don't want to go over because $200 million in reserves is not, it's not as much as Houston has compared to their budget or Newman has compared to their budget, but it's a solid amount of reserves. But obviously their tax dollars are your tax dollars that we've collected to provide services for you. So keeping it in reserves beyond what is reasonable is not prudent. And so we think we're at the right level, and we're going to spend, matter of fact, we spent down some of the reserves right now in this 2021, 2022 year. So exciting times at the county.
I just have to add on that. New is like a buzzword around for me as well. I feel, I'm a year and a half into my role here. It's been such an honor and a joy to be engaging with the supervisor level and having your individuals attend some of our things again and build that back into place, and having you each come out and offer to speak. We really appreciate you guys investing your time with us. So thank you for that.
And to the other reps, Brianna again, and to Lisa, make sure you tell Adam and Josh the collaborative effort is alive and well. I'm so proud of the Valley, more the Valley than anywhere else, because I see disparate views in other places, but by and large, we take the things off the table that we may not agree with the county or with the federal government, and we work towards progress. And it seems like it's a real symbiotic relationship, like no other place. I think the Central Valley is very fortunate to have the representatives we do. Nothing else? All right.
No, don't think so. Well, thank you so much for that. I will go right over to Jennings if you're ready. Are you going to screen share, sir?
Sure, I could do that. I've got a couple of slides that might be interesting that you all might find entertaining, or and of course happy to share them with the group after. I could share it directly with you, Trish, if that works. So everybody has those to hang on to. But first, just wanted to kind of introduce myself. I've met a couple of you, including Brianna, of course, with Congressman Harder's office. It's good to see you. Good to see you as well, Trish. But for those that I haven't met before, just wanted to kind of quickly introduce myself. My name is Jennings Zimmel with the U.S. Chamber out of our Western Regional Office, which is located in LA, even though I'm now currently living in Temecula. But the bottom line is we're in Southern California. Of course, we have 7 different regional offices located throughout the country. We're headquartered in Washington, D.C., right across from the White House. And you know, we advocate on behalf of the business community to Congress, both the House and Senate, and of course to the administration. In my region, the Western region, I cover 5 different states. Those include California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, and Hawaii. And I work with chambers and other business associations from those 5 states to make sure that we're coordinating our efforts with one another in reaching out to members of Congress on issues that matter to the business community, so that members aren't just hearing from the U.S. Chamber in Washington, D.C., but that they're also hearing from local chambers and local businesses back home to try to reinforce those efforts. And quite frankly, we wouldn't be nearly as effective as we are as an organization without the partnership that we have with local chambers on the ground. So we've had a long-standing relationship, great partnership with the Modesto Chamber, going back to, of course, the time when Cecil was there, and even going back, of course, all the way back to Dave Kilby days in Modesto. So just really very appreciative of the relationship and partnership that we have with you all. So I'll attempt to share my screen right now. I've got a couple of slides, as I mentioned, that I wanted to just kind of go over. I think they're kind of interesting, kind of lay the groundwork, not only for what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now, but for what our focus is as well at the U.S. Chamber. I don't think I have to go over the numbers in Congress with you all. I think you all have a pretty good grasp probably of what Congress in D.C. currently looks like, with of course, unified Democrat control of Washington, D.C. with the 50-50 split Senate, of course, with Vice President Kamala Harris being the tie-breaking vote. And then on the House side with a very narrow majority, 4 or 5 vote margin for Speaker Pelosi. And really what this means is that even though on paper it looks like Democrats have unified control of government, which they do, it really means that bipartisanship is going to be more important than ever, that folks in the middle are really going to play an integral role in determining what ultimately gets done this year. And that parses really well with what we've been focused on at the U.S. Chamber for several years now, and that's rebuilding the governing middle. We've tried to enhance our relationships with Republicans and Democrats that are in the center, that are willing to work in a bipartisan way to get things done. And part of those efforts is, we changed our legislative scorecard a couple of years ago to better reflect that, to include 2 new components. One is legislative leadership, the other is bipartisanship. And we're really one of the only organizations in DC that's actively trying to incentivize bipartisanship and members coming together. And of course, we're very happy to note on this call that Congressman Harder has earned our Legislative Leadership Award. I think it's the 2nd year in a row that he's done that. So both years that we have a record for him being in Congress, he's earned that leadership award. And what that means is that essentially he's co-sponsoring really good bills for the business community and staying off of really bad bills for the business community. And that's exactly what we want to see, not only the way that he votes when the bills actually come to the House floor, but also, what bills is he co-sponsoring or not co-sponsoring. So we're very appreciative of that. Of course, he's a member of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a group of 29 Republicans, 29 Democrats in the middle that played a huge role in putting together some of the COVID relief packages last year and are continuing to play kind of an outsized role in Washington, D.C. And I think that puts you all at the Modesto Chamber in really good position to have an enormous amount of influence over what happens in Washington, D.C. And the fact that you have a member of Congress representing you that's part of that Problem Solvers Caucus that is really going to determine kind of what ultimately happens, what gets passed in DC. So it puts you all in a very kind of influential position, which I think is great. Some of the other things that we've changed, we've added some programming, Common Ground series, where we're bringing together Republicans and Democrats to talk about issues in a virtual setting. This just kind of continues the ongoing effort that we've had over the last couple of years of, like I said, trying to rebuild that middle, really enhancing the relationship with the Problem Solvers Caucus and a lot of those moderates in the Senate as well. So think about folks like Senator Romney, Senator Collins, Senator Murkowski on the Republican side, Senator Sinema, Manchin, Kelly, of course, on the Democrat side. Those are folks as well that we've been working quite extensively with and are going to play a key role in this Congress and for the next, really for the foreseeable future in determining what happens. When we're looking at the legislative agenda for this year, just really quickly, I think what's important to note are kind of some of the undercurrents that we see on both the Republican and Democrat side. And so that's what those two charts, that's why I highlighted those charts. On the far left, you have federal spending. Of course, we've seen federal spending skyrocket in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. The federal government has already spent close to $6 trillion trying to address the pandemic. Last year, we ran a deficit of $3.5 trillion. We're already at about $2.5 trillion for this year. This is obviously a mounting concern, but particularly for Republicans. So I think that it's important to keep that in mind when we're thinking about Republican senators and members of the House and where they are going to come down on issues. This is going to be a front and center concern for them. And then, of course, this has a lot to do as well with the amount of spending that we're seeing in DC, has a lot to do with inflation and inflationary pressures and rising prices, which we've also seen over the last couple of months, which have been concerning. So this is very much a front and center for Republicans when we're talking about the various policy debates in Washington, D.C. On the Democrat side, you look at the other chart, and I think there's a sense that this is a window of opportunity with unified Democrat control. The House and Senate and White House all aligned to pass a progressive agenda to expand the role of government in various areas. And they look at charts like this one. This was from a Gallup poll back in August and September of last year. And we've seen similar things even since then, where there are majorities now, really for the first time in a long time, majorities of Americans that are looking for the federal government to play a more active role in various kind of categories and aspects of their lives, and that they should be doing more. And so, I think Democrats are kind of looking at that and kind of at the current environment in our current pandemic environment. And given the political circumstances in DC where they have unified control, this is kind of their opportunity to pass some of these kind of progressive pieces of legislation, that the more progressive wing of the party has wanted to see for a number of years. So these are two kind of important underlying currents that are going to play kind of a role in what happens not only this year, but I think into the future. When we look at the legislative agenda for 2021, of course, we had the American Rescue Plan pass earlier this year. That's kind of the landmark achievement of the Biden administration so far. The other issues that I've checkmarked there, those have passed the House and are currently sitting in the Senate. And then I've included a couple of other items as well. The two that are in bold red are the bipartisan infrastructure package and budget reconciliation. Those are the two that are kind of taking up all the news right now in DC, and the two that I'll focus on in my next couple of slides. On the infrastructure agreement, a lot of you have probably been following this. I've got the slide here that just kind of goes over the highlights, what's in it. It's about $973 billion of spending over 5 years, $1.2 trillion over 8 years. There's almost $600 billion in new spending. This is focused specifically on physical infrastructure. So it's separate from the human infrastructure package that I'm going to talk about shortly. That's in the budget reconciliation bill. But a lot of money here that's kind of critical to upgrading our nation's infrastructure. This is something that we've been very, very supportive of at the U.S. Chamber, and we're going to continue to push for to pass ultimately. hopefully next week. Although that's the aim anyway of Senator Schumer, is to bring this up as early as next week on a vote by as early as Wednesday. Of course, we haven't seen legislative language. There are a lot of kinks that kind of still need to be worked out, but that anyway is the plan. And just kind of as a refresher, this is something that came together as a result of 10 senators, 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, talking with the Biden administration, working with them for several weeks, several months, really, and putting this deal together that was announced a couple of weeks ago. It got kind of broad sign off on a group of 21 senators, 11 Republicans, 10 Democrats. And so that's why, because we have more than 10 Republicans on board, we are hopeful that this can pass the filibuster threshold of 60 and ultimately pass the Senate. Some of the issues that are kind of outstanding, that are still contentious and need to be worked out, are on the pay-fors. It's always the case with infrastructure. Some of the pay-fors we've seen that have been floated have been, of course, repurposing the unused funds from the rescue plan. Same thing, repurposing some of the unused UI funds, public-private partnerships, various bond mechanisms. The IRS enforcement is the biggest issue on the Republican side. A lot of Republicans have some serious concerns about increased funding to the IRS, given what happened during the Obama administration with, targeting of certain conservative groups. So that's kind of a concern, but I think it's one, quite frankly, that we can work past. And Republicans have shown a willingness to work with the administration on this, and kudos to the administration as well for continuing to try to pursue a bipartisan agreement on infrastructure. So we're hopeful that this will get done soon. If not next week, then hopefully before the August recess. That would be great. Now, on a separate track, and this is potentially a complicating factor, is the budget reconciliation push. So the progressive wing of the Democrat Party has wanted to see not only an infrastructure package come together, but they want to see something much larger in scope that deals not just with physical infrastructure, but with human infrastructure as well. And so that's been a demand from folks on the left wing of the party, and the administration has essentially agreed to pursue this track. Legislative leadership has agreed to pursue kind of doing 2 separate tracks, one for the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the other for this American Families Plan budget reconciliation bill that they plan to pass with a simple majority. So just 51 votes as opposed to 60 votes. Some of the highlights, although we haven't seen a lot of specifics here, certainly no language, legislative language, highlights include $3.5 trillion top line number on spending. You've got the creation of several new entitlement programs and the expansion of some existing entitlement programs like Medicare. You've got universal pre-K, universal free community college, universal paid family and medical leave. A lot of things that are in here, virtually guaranteed to get 0 Republican support for all the reasons I mentioned a couple slides ago, with concerns about spending. And even on the Democrats' side of the aisle, not exactly sure where folks like Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema, Senator Kelly, some of the more moderate folks are going to come on this. And the same could be said as well for a lot of the moderates on the House side. I think a lot of details still need to be worked out on this issue. So in regards to the pay-fors that have been floated all involve increasing taxes in one form or another, increasing the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%, increasing the top individual tax rate back to 39.6%, the capital gains rate almost doubling that to close to 40%. Big concerns, obviously, for us at the U.S. Chamber about a lot of these tax proposals. I don't think that's a surprise to you all, but this is something that we've been very outspoken on. And I have a couple of slides here that kind of just reinforce that point, that raising taxes is not the solution. That's not something we want to see, especially as businesses struggle to come out of the pandemic, already dealing with those issues, as well as other workforce issues. Raising taxes on them, now is not the time to do it. When you think of C Corps as well, I think that there's this misconception that C Corps are large multinational corporations, when in fact, the vast majority are small business. 85% of C Corps have actually less than 20 employees. There's more than 1.4 million of them throughout the country that employ more than 13 million individuals. So it would hit a lot of folks, not only the companies and the employers directly, but also, of course, their employees and the consumers that will have to pay higher prices as a result. So just important to keep in mind. And then, of course, on the competitiveness side of things, bringing it back to 28%, for example, that means almost a 35% statutory rate here in California because of our own corporate tax rate. You know, the OECD average is right around 25, 26%. So we'd be well above just about every other developed nation on earth in corporate tax. And this is just a couple more slides or a couple more charts that demonstrate kind of where countries have gone over the last couple of decades in moving their corporate tax rates from, you know, the 40s even just a few decades ago in the 40 percentile range down to closer to the low 20s, mid 20s. And so we don't want to reverse that general trend that we've been seeing really across the board throughout the world. And then lastly, I'll mention this is not necessarily as policy, it is policy focused, but not on the current policy debates so much in Washington, D.C. right now, but a big issue that I'm sure you all are hearing about, and that's our workforce crisis. You know, we've had a tremendously difficult time. Businesses have had a very difficult time finding workers as the pandemic kind of recedes and as business starts to open up again. Workforce challenges have been huge. We're hearing from businesses all over the place that it's just as hard now, if not harder, than it was back in February of 2020 to find workers. And in February of 2020, we had what, 3.5% unemployment. The open job to worker ratio was essentially 1-to-1. That was the lowest that's ever been recorded. And right now we're at about 1.4 available workers per job opening. So even that's kind of a historically low number. And obviously a lot of this has to do with the federal UI benefit, that extra $300 per week. There was an Axios poll that came out a couple of weeks ago, or that was done a couple of weeks ago, finding that 1.8 million Americans turned down work due to unemployment benefits. So it's a problem. And you know, at the US Chamber, we've called for that to either be phased out or to be repurposed in some sort of way. But even after those benefits expire in September, we're still going to have a workforce crunch. It existed before the pandemic. It's going to continue to exist. And at the US Chamber, we've been calling on a number of different kind of workforce policies that should be enacted. We think of things like the College Transparency Act, you know, which provides kind of applicants a little bit more information before applying to a college as to kind of what the job market in that field is going to look like. But then also on the immigration side as well, that we need to see something get done on immigration reform. The system has been broken for far too long. Folks, you know, employers can't find the talent that they need. The talent that's here, that even gets educated here, can't stay here and work and contribute to the American economy. Major problems that we need to get fixed. And kudos, of course, to Congressman Harder for his support on really all of those efforts on Dream and Workforce and the Farm Workforce Modernization Act. Really appreciate that. And hopefully now that the House has passed those items, they can gain some traction in the Senate and get going from there. But the workforce issue is going to continue to be a major problem long after even this year. So just another thing I wanted to highlight. Those are the main issues I wanted to bring up. And then just kind of lastly, of course, we encourage you all to continue to play an active role here. You know, direct kind of outreach to Congressman Harder and to Brianna. Of course, you all have a good relationship there. I think that's going to continue to be key. And as I mentioned, Congressman Harder is in really kind of a great position as part of the Problem Solvers Caucus, moderate member, supportive of the business community, really supportive in a lot of these different issues. You all have great representation and kind of a great way to make your voice heard, right, as the voice of the Modesto business community. So just wanted to highlight a couple of these items. And then I guess I'll leave it there. I know I covered a lot in hopefully not too long amount of time. And then I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
No rush, we have plenty of time. Any questions?
Is your PowerPoint available, Jennings, on the US Chamber website?
Not on the website, but I'll send it over to Trish, and so she can distribute it to the group.
That would be great.
Yep.
A lot of great information.
Anything else? Well, I will thank you both for your time today. Really appreciate it. Great information across the board. Again, sorry, the group is on the small side, but we will have this up on our website within the week. We're working hard to get caught up on some of the other videos we have. I will let you know when it's live. I'll try and make a point between Sabrina and I to get a message out to you guys. And then when we have the PowerPoint, we'll include that with that, because there was a lot of very specific info shared today that I know you guys would appreciate. And look forward to seeing us again next month on the third Friday. Let's see. Oh, we are having Supervisor Chance Condit, District 5 is going to be one of our speakers next month. So his view, challenges, and opportunities for Stanislaus County. So really, really appreciating the partnership with the supervisors to join us to speak. So greatly appreciate that. And unless there's something else, I'm going to give you all back a little bit of your Friday.
Thank you much. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you. Yeah, thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Trish.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you. Have a
meeting.
wonderful weekend.